What's up, guys? Stephen Bogren here from Pro Physique. Today, I want to talk about your recovery. Alright guys, so what's up? Happy Friday, everybody. You've made it through. It's the last day of the week. The weekend is coming. So, with the weekend coming up, I think it makes sense to talk about something like recovery. This is what I believe to be one of the most overlooked aspects of training that people have, right? Nobody ever really thinks about recovery. Like, everybody thinks about, hey, what's my nutrition look like? You know, how am I fueling my exercise? Am I fueling my fat loss? Am I fueling my muscle gaining with my nutrition? What am I eating? Is that important? Is that doing the job? Everybody thinks about, hey, is my training good? Am I training hard enough? Am I training often enough? Am I squatting enough? Am I doing the right exercises, right? So those two, like, people are really good about that. But when we talk about recovery, and some of the aspects of recovery that are important, I think we definitely tend to miss the mark. So let's go with some of the easy aspects of recovery that I think can make a big difference in whether or not you're making gains, right? Whether or not you're making progress. First and foremost is, are you giving that muscle or muscle group time to rest and recover? So when we look at the research, what we see is that when we give our muscles a sufficient stimulus with exercise, not extra fries, but when we give our body enough stimulus, muscle protein synthesis or new muscle growth is stimulated for 48 hours. I had to think that one up. 48 hours. That means 2 days we have of our body building new muscle after a training session. Right? Awesome. So, we have to take into account how hard we pushed during that training session as well, and how hard we've pushed during that block in order to make sure that our body is fully recovered and ready to perform again before the next training session. So, when we talk about recovery, my rule of thumb is that we want at least 2 full days in between training that muscle group. So that means if we're doing legs on a Monday, we want to not do legs on Tuesday or Wednesday and wait till Thursday to do them again. Now, this is especially important for bodybuilders. Powerlifters, now you guys are sort of going to get away from this because frequency can become very important when squatting. And so if you are kind of going through the squat every day method, obviously that's not going to be a thing. But I don't believe that that is going to apply for a large majority of people out there. So, and guys, squat every day is just simply about squatting every day. So when we talk about motor patterns and practicing movements, practice makes perfect. So the argument for that is that the more you squat, the better you will be at it, because you're simply more practiced, just like anything else in sport and in life, okay? So, that still though makes the point of we want a couple days off in between that training session to recover. Now, let's talk about the nutrition, right? Because nutrition is important when it comes to that, right? So, we want to make sure that we are getting enough protein. Protein is our adaptive macronutrient, which means that carbs and fats give us energy. Protein helps us to change our body, right? We need protein to add muscle. We need protein to make enzymes. We need protein to do a lot of things, okay? So we want to make sure that our protein intake is good enough. The RDA for protein is pretty low, right? Pretty easy to hit. For me, it would be about 80 to 90 grams a day. That's obviously not going to cut it if I'm an active individual who is weight training and pushing himself physically. My body simply needs more protein to keep up with the demands for new muscle growth and for muscle repair. So making sure that your protein is good enough, right? Protein is half of it, right? So we have protein, which is muscle protein synthesis, making new muscle, right? And then we have carbs. So yeah, carbs is energy, but here's what carbs does. It prevents muscle protein breakdown. So protein synthesis up, muscle protein breakdown down. Now we're in a positive area, right? So now we're making more than we're losing. So we want to make sure that we have enough carbs as well. Now, if you're like me, I don't have a problem with that because I love the carbs. But making sure that you're fueling your body with enough carbs, spacing them out so that you can recover well is important. Don't demonize insulin. Insulin does just as much good as it does bad. Remember, all things in moderation and take into consideration your current activity level. All right, so that is a little bit for our training, our days off, our nutrition, right? Whew. So let's talk a little bit more about training. Do I believe that it is a good idea to go in and go till failure on a regular basis, to squat every day? Absolutely not. I don't feel like it is a good idea. I feel like it increases risk for injury, and I don't feel like it is necessary. Now, maybe if you are doing some extra things, you can get away with that with a little bit less risk for injury. And let's be honest, if you are trying to be an elite, the elite of the elite, you might not be able to get away with not doing it, right? That's just how it goes. But for the vast majority of people, it is not something I would ever recommend. This is why. We've seen studies where 2 working sets of 8 reps spikes muscle protein synthesis, okay? That means 2 sets, 8 reps each. Hey, my body's gonna grow, okay? So we know that pretty minimal amounts can do the work. And we know that we get diminishing returns, right? So say that's 60% of protein synthesis. We do one more set, we get to 75. We do another set, we get to like 81, right? We do another set, we get to like 84 and a half. So each extra set isn't the same amount of return on investment for us. So we want to make sure that we are setting up our training in a way to where we're not doing so much damage that we can't recover from it all the time. And that we're also doing functional overreaching within the block. That means volume is high, intensity gets higher, volume gets lower. Boom. Once we see performance decrements, we now then back off, do a deload, go back into it and start. We should be able to start a little bit higher if the programming was good. Right? Boom. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So let's talk about sleep. Because sleep's important. Sleep is vitally important in your recovery. So, to be very simplistic about it, extra hormones are released while you're sleeping. You're also not out and about doing shit. Your body recovers, right? So not only physiologically is sleep important, mentally it's important as well. Because when you have too little sleep, stress goes up. And that's the next one we'll get to in a little bit. So what I always tell everybody, I want you to have an absolute minimum of 6 hours of sleep a night. Some people need more, okay? Some people can get away with less, but remember, if we're trying to build, I want you to have 6 hours as your bottom end. And it is going to vary individually. Each person is different. Some people are fine on 6 hours, some people need 8, some people need 9. And so knowing your body, understanding how you work is an important part of the process, and making sure that you take care of your body's physiological needs, and getting enough sleep, okay? I know that it is hard to make time to sleep sometimes. Life gets crazy. You're out and about, the kids are doing something crazy, they have to be up for soccer practice, work has been insane this week. So we have to work around life. Life isn't going to change for us, so we have to do our best. But when we plan ahead and we know where our priorities lie, we can do a much better job doing so. Here's the last one I'm going to end on today, and that is stress. And obviously I hinted about that in sleep. Stress is huge, right? We have something called a stress response in our body. Our blood vessels constrict. Inflammation systemically, right? And so muscles tighten. We know this. Think about when you get pissed off in traffic. You just grip the wheel just a little bit harder. You son of a... So we want to make sure that we pay attention to stress as well. This one I think is harder. We're not really brought up to think about stress and to talk about stress. Like, yeah, we're kind of like allowed to bitch a little bit. Like we get our Chardonnay moment. For those of you that don't know what that is, that's your 24-hour window to bitch. And then after that, you're done. Suck it up and go make things happen. But managing your stress is extremely important. And so there are a lot of ways to do that. If it's relaxation techniques, if it's diaphragmatic breathing, if it's listening to music, if it's meditation, whatever it might be. It's important that we understand the things that are stressing us out, why they're stressing us out, and that we are able to cope and deal with them in a positive manner. Not only is stress and sleep going to affect recovery, they're also going to affect fat loss. And that is why it is so important that we take heed of these things, understand what they're doing in our lives, how they are affecting us, and how we are going to handle them. So guys, I know we're getting to that point where it's getting kind of long, old Steve. So I'm going to cut it right there. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Kick ass, get goals, and I'll talk to you soon.